Hey guys, absolutely Kumot here, also known as Kumot Boy, to enjoy everything and anything with the masses. So I'm back with episode 2 for True Remembrance, and obviously I just posted the episode 1 this morning, and I would like to at least post another episode. So yeah. Anyway, let's go start the game. So what happened last episode is we got introduced to our man Blackiris, and we met La in front of the door. I think was it, and yeah, that's basically it. We also got her in the house. So yeah, here we go. Okay, all I had to do now was to let the stew simmer on its own for a while. So I poked my head out of the kitchen to check up on how my guest was doing. Or not, she was just sitting on a chair, so motionless that she might have been mistaken for a wax doll. Her hands were clasped neatly on her lap, and her eyes were sharp and focused straight ahead. So she'd been like this the entire time? Didn't that get really tiring after a while? La. There's no need to be tense. There's no need to be so tense. Come, loosen up. You're one of us now. Until her sight corrosion disappeared, that was. I couldn't really say when that would happen though. Could be a week from today, could be 3 months from today. I'd heard some exceptional cases even took years. Not tense. It's just before before she could finish her sentence, her belly made an unhappy sound, empty sound. This explained everything. Kind of. I take it you're hungry? Latches blushed and glared at me. She must have seen how hard I was trying to contain myself. But the thing was, no matter what my instincts told me, I couldn't just laugh. There were tears in her eyes again. Whether that was due to the dolor, embarrassment, or chagrin was immaterial. I wasn't about to make a girl cry. Wait just a bit longer, okay? I've got a delicious stew coming right up. But by this time, La was already staring pointedly out the window, ignoring me. Aw, that sucks. Kinda sucks, bro. It was a simple meal. Stew, bread, salad. But La was just wolfing it down as if it were the most delicious meal she'd ever had. I did have to wonder though, did famous chefs get to feel this warm, fuzzy feeling deep down inside all the time? I stopped eating altogether and focused on La. Maybe it was a trick of the light, but I could have sworn that she almost looked happy. The first time I'd seen her that way in all the short time I know her. She's smiling right there, my guy. Are you that blind? Hello? Stop staring. Hard to eat that way. Oh, sorry about that. Am I weird? Huh? Am I weird? Why do you keep staring at me? Oh, no, you're not strange. I just kind of spaced out, that's all. Bad habit of mine. You certainly do eat a lot, that's all. Oops. I just told the girl that she ate a lot. How was I going to get out of this one? No, not at all. In fact, it makes me happy to see you. Oh god. Right, real smooth. But La just nodded warmly and smiled. Felt a rush of relief and suspicion all at once. I was bad enough at social interactions as it was, but girls were headaches of a totally different magnitude. And this one, yeah. By the end of dinner, La had just about lost her air of bewilderment, although I couldn't tell whether it was for real or just another brave front. Not that I was in much better shape, while I was pretty used to this job by now. The first couple of days with a new guest were always a delicate phase. Best to end the day early and get a good night's sleep, so we'd both be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed come tomorrow. Now, I'll be doing dishes down here, so why don't you go ahead and take a shower and go to bed? There should be a bathroom at the end of the corridor. I started to stand, but La just sat there and stared at me as if there was something she wanted to say, but couldn't quite articulate. Alright, you have my word that I won't peep, so go ahead. I'm not worried. I'm not worried about that. It's the room. The room? There's only one bed. Oh, so this must have been why she was so uptight before dinner. Totally understandable, although that didn't stop me from sighing. I mean, alright, now what? Come to think of it, I'd never been assigned a female guest before. They always made sure you got someone of the same sex. Well, at least up until now. What a headache. Ella continued to stare at me, but there was something helpless lurking in her eyes now. It wouldn't be so hard to make that strong facade of hers crumble into dust now if I wanted to. And I kind of wanted to. You know, as a joke. Or something. Shall we sleep together? Oh! She instantly flushed, red as beet. Her lips fluttered open and shut, like those of a goldfish of water. This continued for a while, and then she finally managed to stammer. No thanks. I'll just sleep on the floor. Great. Now she looked. My guy, why? Great. Now she looked like she was going to cry again. That was a joke. There's a sofa in the living room, so I'll just sleep there. Go ahead and take the bed. After all, I wasn't about to make her sleep on the floor. The sofa looked nice and comfy, and it wasn't as if I particularly cared. I'd sleep in far less comfortable places than before I'd taken this job. You're taller than I am. You'll cramp. I'll take the sofa. Oh great, she really was a good girl. And a super stubborn one to boot. Just what was I supposed to do with her? First of all, it's not bad for me. Second of all, even if it were, I wouldn't care. So there's no need for you to worry about it. But what are we going to sleep together? What? Are we going to sleep together after all? I have no objections if that's what you want. She flushed, red as beet again. Nothing to it. All I had to do was play this out and she'd have to yield. At least that's what I thought. Until she just sort of quietly nodded, that is. I wasn't prepared for this. La. You don't just say okay to something like this. What are you going to do if I try something? And what are you going to do? Rape me? Oh god, no. But that's not the point. What if someone saw us, got the wrong idea or something? Imagine the rumors. I was sounding like some kind of preachy old man now. So this was what I'd been reduced to. Just wonderful. What the hell was wrong with me today? You won't do anything. You won't do anything to hurt me. I trust you. She what? Anyway, look. You happen to be my guest. So you take the bed and I'll take the sofa. That's the rule. And so long as we're here, we can't break it. I didn't want to play this card. I was supposed to be your guide, not your overseer. I can't just order her around like this. But in the face of such stubbornness, I didn't think I had a choice. She looked at me as if she wanted to make an objection, but then she slowly nodded. She stood up without a word after that and began walking toward the bathroom. Oh man, now I was all worn out. I had almost finished washing the dishes when La suddenly reappeared in the kitchen. She'd apparently been there for a while, watching me quietly. But it wasn't until I caught the faint and intoxicating smell of floral shampoo wafting from her just washed hair that I became aware of her presence. Yes. No, it's nothing. Good night. Blackiris. 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 There was the gentlest hint of a smile on her face as she turned heel and walked out of the kitchen. I stood still and listened for a long time after that, until I was sure that she'd tucked herself in and gone to sleep. What a strange girl. Strange but not bad at all. Every time I thought of what a pain tomorrow was going to be, that bashful good night kept popping into my head. In the end, I couldn't help but to smile. So she left me with no choice but to do well for her sake. Again. So chapter 2. Oh. The next morning, I was startled awake by an awful crashing sound. Interesting, I'd never been up this way this morning. I allowed myself a deep sigh, and then I get up off the sofa. Last back was turned to me when I found her, so I said, "Good morning." An early riser, I see. And almost succeeded at suppressing a grin when she jumped in surprise. Good morning. But then I looked down and the sigh completely succeeded at wiping the smirk off my face. There's a familiar looking kettle on the floor, and a spreading dark puddle that had to be the remnants of yesterday's stew. How did it come to this? See, stew for breakfast, kettle boiled over. See, stew for breakfast, kettle boiled over. Went to take it off, stuff burned, and Okay, so that explained a couple things. The peculiar smell, for one thing, and the uncharacteristic warmth of the house, for another. I looked over the stove, and sure enough, it was lit and burning bright. And I had the following sequence of thoughts. 1. This is weird. 2. I certainly didn't build that fire. 3. So she must have. 4. Man, this is weird. Not bad at all, actually. Ever since I became a Mnemonicide, I'd always lived alone. There was this stray kitten who'd invited herself into my life for a while, but obviously cats can't light stoves or build fires. And of course she didn't stick around forever. One day I woke up and she was gone. You didn't get scalded or anything. I see. That's a relief. I'm not mad at you or anything, so there's no need to apologize. I'm so sorry. Wait, didn't I just tell her not to apologize? After that, I started cleaning the mess up, but La wasn't having any of that. Okay, fine, whatever. So I figured we'd do it together, but she wouldn't have any of that either. So in the end, she stubbornly insisted on cleaning the mess up all by herself. After the kitchen was all spick and span, we broke the fast with some pastries. Let's head out once we're finished eating. Any particular place you want to go? This is how the job worked. As her guide, I would show her around town. And as she grew more and more comfortable with life here, the more opportunities I would have as her Mnemonicide to erase the memories that had so corroded her psyche. But the thing was, I really didn't like doing any of this, not that it mattered. Hell, it was my job. I didn't have a choice in the matter. It wasn't as if I was bad at it. Quite the contrary. I was quite efficient, both as a guide and as a Mnemonicide. I had 2 years of rigorous training in both. To thank for that, that was mandatory for licensure, and I'd passed with flying colors. Really, the only reason I hated this part of my job was because I simply hated walking around outside. I mean, what was the point? Up to you. You are my guide, yes? I looked up from her glass of milk to briefly flit her eyes at me. I thought that she would say something like that, but still that bothered the hell out of me. I really wanted to let out a sigh. Alright, let's go. Best to take your coat with you. It's cold out, you know. La nodded and then undraped her government-issue topcoat from her chair. We walked out the door and into our frozen town. She trailed me by a few paces. Streets were deserted in defiance of the Daystar's wan advance to the shadows. Beat long tattoos on the snake-choked leaves. There were little under 1,000 licensed Mnemonicides here, and each of one had a guest. Then there were governmental personnel. Oh yes, and the people who had special permission to set up business in town. Too few people, too many ghosts. That was a problem with this place. Though there was a pandemic, the waitlist for the Mnemonicide protocol ran into the hundreds of pages. There just weren't enough of us to go around. I was gazing about at storefronts and houses. What was it that she saw? All I could see was an awkward clod of brick and ice and ruined congealing out of slushy asphalt. Did I swear? I stutter so much. Now, as I continued to walk alone, she stopped to look at something, then stopped to stare at something else entirely, then started again, and so on. Naturally, quite a gap arose between us. Thought for a second about waiting and matching pace with her, but it was far more fun to just watch her antics, so I let her be. Blackiris, where are we going? She asked as she caught up for me, her feet thudding on the icy sidewalk and her breath painting short-lived clouds on the air about us. Oops. Let's see. How about some nice delicious coffee? There's this place I know on 6th Street, so let's take the trolley from here. What? You heard me right? Don't tell me you've never ridden one before. I haven't. That struck me as more than a little odd. Other than on foot, there was no other real method of transportation around here. And our trolley system was so good anyway that no one really minded. The other cities of our country had public transit systems that were at least as well developed as ours. That's how normal people get around. But La here had been chauffeured around for all her life, apparently. Her family must have been very rich, or very important, or both. So I stopped to think about this. La took the opportunity to sprint past me toward the station. So she could be this lively at times, eh? Fascinating. However, since her small figure was already receding into the horizon, I was going to have to cut my reverie short. A smile came to my lips unbidden, and I began to walk again. We got off the trolley at 6th Street station and headed toward our destination. Now, of course, continued to make her frequent investigatory stops. But in this case, it was entirely understandable. Our house was on 8th Street. That end of town was mainly private residences. But 6th, well, it was It was the closest thing we had to a shopping mall around these parts. And La seemed intent on examining every single piece of merchandise and every single display window we encountered. Our destination, by the way, was not on 6th proper, but on a back street a block or so away. Its door was unadorned but for a nameplate that simply read Aroma. As we opened the door and walked in, a chime rang out in, and soon thereafter so did a casual voice. Welcome. Hey, wait a second. Why Why, if it isn't Blackiris, long time no see, man. I raised a hand in casual response. This proprietor here was one of the acquaintances I had, you see. Been out of town or something? Haven't seen you around these parts in forever, you know? No, I've been here the whole time. What did you do? Barricade yourself in your apartment? That's not good, yo. Oh, I got it. Don't tell me, you. My acquaintance's flood of sarcasm suddenly went dry when he spotted the girl who was standing behind me. Actually, it was more like La was hiding behind the folds of my greatcoat and scoping out the cafe's interiors. Got a girlfriend? He at least had the good grace to manage a strange smile. La, on the other hand, reacted with no grace at all. She startled, flushed red as the beat, began to shake her head violently. Fascinating. Let her go for a bit longer, till I became distinctly afraid that she might very well shake her head clear off her shoulders. This is my guess. I see, right. No way a cute little thing like this would shack up with an oddball like you, right? What was I thinking, man? This was insulting. It also happened to be true, so I couldn't really say anything. I had La sit at the counter and then took a seat next to her. Welcome. The name's Rook, and the honor's all mine. Don't you be forgetting me now, okay, little lady? Even manages slight wink at La with the last sentence. Smooth, man, real smooth. Too smooth for me to want to imitate. As a matter of fact, if you know what I mean. La must have been as dumbstruck as I was, as she took a very long time to answer. La. Charmed, I think. She then bowed politely, too politely, almost. A look of surprise flashed across Rook's face, and then he burst out laughing. Oh man, have we got a bona fide cutie here? Hey Lilla, how old are ya? Rook asked as he leaned over the counter and grinned. I sighed inwardly. See, this is just like him. He was like a dog with a bone whenever something interested him. My polar opposite, in other words. La, of course, was squirming uncomfortably in her seat by now. Obviously, this attention was unwanted. I sighed, outwardly this time. Enter the face room. If you know what's good for you, you'll stop harassing my guests, please. I'm not harassing her at all, man. I'm just really interested in her, that's all. What's wrong with getting to know her a bit? Nice and personal, huh? Fine, have it your way. Just stop glaring at me like that, man. Rook shrugged vaguely as if to say, you're damn scary when you glare. Lau, meanwhile, was sighing with relief now that her interrogation was over. Did you come for lunch? It's a bit early for that, but hey, whatever. So what'll it be? Anyway, up to you. Hey La, anything in particular you want to eat? No idea. That came as no surprise. There were no menus here at the Cafe Aroma. Rook always just made whatever he felt like anyway, whether it was what the customer had ordered or not. Wow, that's okay. That's some weird business you have there, boy. So I guess it was my mistake to even ask the question in the first place. Dude, just what kind of a guide are you, anyhow? Rook asked me in surprise. Well, excuse me. Well, yeah, someone like him who smothered his guests with all manner of unwanted attention would find me odd. Hey Lila, want to be my guest from now on? I swear you'll have lots of fun. Sorry, no. Rook smiled wryly, as if to say, oh, that's too bad, and got busy behind the counter. Much to my surprise, La smiled back, so obviously she was starting to warm up to him. Female guest though. Just what was Dexter thinking anyway? Rook wondered aloud as he began washing some vegetables. This Dexter, by the way, was the supervisor to whom several Mnemonicides, including Rook and me, reported. Every single one of my assignments came from Dexter himself. Law, for instance. But isn't it official policy not to allow male-female pairings? Man, if that's changed, when am I going to be up for me? Most likely never. Aiyah. You, with a girl, would fear for her life. You're probably right. After all, if I got to live with a cutie like Lil La here, there's no telling what might happen. Oh my god, Rook, I swear to god. That reminds me. Hey little lady, Blackiris here does something he shouldn't. You come run to me, you hear? Out of the frying pan and into the fire indeed. By this time, Rook was slicing up some fillets of fish without having to even look down at what he's doing. Now, I wasn't so bad at cooking myself, but this guy was really a pro. Unlike most other top-flight chefs, he was a real eccentric. Case in point, he would rather give up his Mnemonicide status than his cafe here. Although he didn't have enough customers for this place to be viable, it'd probably be wild. Successful if he ever opened a restaurant somewhere other than this godforsaken town. But he couldn't do that, and he had no inclination to either. Here you go. He put gargantuan fish and vegetable burgers grilled to perfection before each of us. Laz looked almost as big as her head, but she bravely grabbed it with two hands and started digging in nonetheless. And she dug in with total gusto. The look of delight on her face was just fascinating. But she'd get mad if I stared at her for any longer, so I turned my attention to my own food. Rook watched us for a bit, and once he was satisfied that we were satisfied, began grinding some coffee beans. By hand, I'd never seen him do it in any other way. Soon the aroma of fresh ground coffee filled the air. It was so wonderful, in fact, that it made La look up from her burger. Coffee? Wait a second. That's why she said that. It was as if it was her first time she'd ever even encountered this stuff. Okay, the trolley thing, I could explain why, but this, curiouser and curiouser. Nah, not coffee at all. This little lady is what we call espresso. Although Blackiris, well, he can't get that through his skull. I tried, I tell ya. Is that different from coffee? Totally. The way the beans are roasted, how they're pressed, how much caffeine there is, how it tastes, all different. But a barbarian like Blackiris here would never understand that. Rook pulled the lever on his espresso machine as he grumbled. Then after a calculated pause, he pulled the lever again. No grumbles this time around. 2 demi-tasses, each filled with this wonderful smelling dark liquid, materialized before us soon thereafter. Here you go. Sweets for the sweet. La, the cafe mocha's got your name on it. Usual cafe corretto for you, Blackiris. Impeccable timing as usual, since we'd both just finished our burgers. La picked up her demitasse gingerly, as if it were the most delicate thing in the world, and breathed in the rising vapors. Smells good. Of course. This is my specialty, see? Now, Rook was always this way with the ladies, but today he seemed to be even more effervescent than usual. Then again, La wasn't brushing him off the way that most women did, so maybe that was it. Alright, Blackiris. Got an assignment, and not from Dexter. Consultation requisition for a high-level Mnemonicide Lucky you, you've been tapped. Tapped? Wait. I'm currently with guest. It's not safe or legal to double up like that. Come to think of it, yeah. I wonder how come Dexter didn't tell me you were with guest. Anyway, He's usually real good about that. Probably just a unique communications breakdown. Anyway, relay my regrets from you, will you? Rook froze, then shot me this half sheepish, half evil look. He and I had been colleagues for long enough that I knew that what this meant. He'd screwed me over. No choice, man. I had to agree. Let's just say this new client is well connected. While Rook himself was a competent enough Mnemonicide, his true talent in that arena was a fence. He ran a black market brokerage that matched Mnemonicides with prospective guests outside of official channels. It was all strictly hush-hush. None of us had said a thing about it to Dexter, and he hadn't asked. Our clients were diverse, but they all had one thing in common. They were rich and powerful. I had no idea where Rook found the time to own and operate this fine and unprofitable restaurant, given everything else he did. I suppose that made him something of a workaholic. This case will be a cinch, I tell ya. It'll be done in 24 hours, I guarantee it. No idea why they insisted on a class alpha Mnemonicide. Really? Haha. Why story, Mark? It was a rare pleasure to see him groveling and begging like this. Except it wasn't that rare. And it was no pleasure at all this time around. I didn't care about this being a technical violation of the law, so long as the pay is good. And it was but right now, La was my guess. She had priority, that was something I couldn't violate. So I was going to have to say no. But then, as if she could read my mind, La casually said, "Don't mind, you're calm, but no worries, as you were." Her speech was curt and to the point as usual, but there was something awfully ill at ease about the way she said it. What did she dislike being pampered the way the rules dictated guests must be? If that was so, she was an odd one. Most guests who came here were so starved for attention at first that they grew addicted to our care. Wait, if La really did dislike being waited on hand and foot, was that why she was assigned to a Mnemonicide who wasn't particularly good with his guests? That brought up all sorts of possibilities that I didn't want to think about. Alright, fine, but you owe me one. Oh, don't bother calling me at my apartment. I'm not there. I'm currently at the house on top of the hill at 8th Street, so send your client there. I'll make it up to you somehow. 8th, eh? Isn't that kinda out in the boonies? Nice and peaceful, actually. So much so that I have half a mind to move there permanently. Oh, get off it, man. You're not old enough to retire yet. Anyway, thanks a bunch for this. I'll have the client at your location by the day after tomorrow. Roger that. Anyway, guys, this is how I'm going to end this episode of True Remembrance, episode 2. Like the video if you like it, dislike it, comment, share with your family, share with your friends, share with your dogs, anyone you know. And Kumot Boy, out.